For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. Israel's launched a major military operation in the occupied West Bank, killing 10 Palestinians in Jenin and Tulkarem, and sparking fears it will broaden its war to the West Bank and forcibly displace Palestinians. The UK's Guardian is reporting Israeli forces have sealed off the city of Jenin. The Wafa news agency is reporting bulldozers were also deployed, which have been used to destroy Palestinian homes. The AP's Charles de Ledesma reports.
The governor of Jenin, Kamal Abu El-Rub, said on Palestinian radio that Israeli forces had surrounded the city, blocking exits and entry points and access to hospitals and ripping up infrastructure in the camp. The Israeli military has confirmed it's operating in the city of Jenin and Tulkarem, but did not provide further details. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Haaretz is quoting military sources as saying one focus of the raid is a network suspected of a suicide bombing last week in Tel Aviv. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society says one youth was injured by live bullets. Palestine's health ministry is reporting Israeli forces have killed at least 652 Palestinians in the West Bank since Hamas's October 7th attack in southern Israel. Hamas has no control in the West Bank. The Bedouin hostage Israeli forces say they rescued from Gaza after finding him alone in an underground tunnel is calling for an end to the war. 52-year-old Qaid Farhan al-Qadi was captured during Hamas's October 7th attack in southern Israel. He told media it does not matter Arab or Jewish, all have a family waiting for them. They also want to feel the joy. I pray for an end to this. I told Bibi Netanyahu yesterday to work to bring an end to this. Israel says there are still 108 hostages in Gaza. About a third of them are dead. The Justice Department's special counsel Jack Smith has filed a new indictment against Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump over his efforts to undo the 2020 presidential election. The indictment narrows the original one in response to the Supreme Court's ruling that grants presidents broad immunity from prosecution and their officials. It keeps the same criminal charges, but narrows the allegations against Trump, removing accusations he tried to use law enforcement powers of the Justice Department to overturn his election loss. The new case no longer references Jeffrey Clark as a co-conspirator who was appointed by Trump as acting attorney general. The new indictment also stresses none of the other co-conspirators listed were government officials or were acting in a private capacity. The indictment still includes allegations Trump participated in a scheme orchestrated by his allies to enlist slates of fraudulent electors in battleground states won by Democrat Joe Biden, who agreed to falsely attest Trump had won those states. In a statement on his Truth Social platform, Trump called the new indictment an act of desperation and an effort to resurrect a dead witch hunt. He said the new case should be dismissed immediately. The Biden administration is offering federal resources to presidential candidates Republican Trump and Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris for presidential transition planning for the first time. Experts suggest both teams are already behind in preparing for their potential administrations. Trump has added two former Democrats who just endorsed him to his presidential transition team, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who suspended his presidential campaign Friday, and former Hawaii Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who endorsed Trump Monday. Pacifica's Farah Siddiqui has more.
Anti-vaccine activist Robert F. Kennedy Jr. told right-wing commentator Tucker Carlson that he's been asked to work with Trump's sons should he win.
I've been asked to go onto the transition team and, to help pick the people who will be running the government.
Trump had previously criticized Kennedy's extreme views on vaccines. I'm Farah Siddiqui for Pacifica Network and Public News Service.
Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris campaigns in southern Georgia today to reach deeper into the swing state. There are calls for an investigation into Georgia's election board after the majority MAGA Trump allies on the board approved new controversial rules ahead of the November election. Pacifica's Farah Siddiqui has more.
If we fail to protect our state democracy, our sacred democracy, we will risk falling into chaos.
Georgia Democratic Representative Lucy McBath is urging Governor Brian Kemp to investigate 3 state election board members. The Democratic Party is suing the board, saying members are colluding with former President Donald Trump's campaign to potentially block certification of this fall's election. Under two new rules backed by the Trump allies who control the board, it could say there were voting problems and refuse to certify county results. Democrats argue that would violate state law and overstep the board's authority. Trump praised three board members by name at a recent Atlanta rally.
Are all pit bulls fighting for honesty, transparency, and victory.
I'm Farah Siddiqui for Pacifica Network and Public News Service.
International media outlets are accusing Russia of targeting media workers in Ukraine after a Reuters security analyst was killed in an airstrike over the weekend, and two others of a six-member Reuters team were wounded at a hotel that was hit. In the U.S., a heat wave in the Midwest, Great Lakes, and East Coast continues today. At least a dozen cities are forecast to hit record temperatures. This is the United Nations top weather agency has issued a stark warning about how climate change is endangering the lives and livelihoods of island nations in the South Pacific. The UN's World Meteorological Organization released its annual report on the state of the climate in the Southwest Pacific Ocean for 2023. Secretary General Antonio Guterres called the report's findings dire.
I am in Tonga to issue a global SOS, Save Our Seas, on rising sea levels. Global average sea levels are rising at rates unprecedented in the past 3,000 years. Relative sea levels in the southwestern Pacific have risen even more than the global average. Greenhouse gases, overwhelmingly generated by burning fossil fuels, are cooking our planet. And the sea is taking the hit literally. Rising seas are a crisis entirely of humanity's making. A crisis that will soon swell to an almost unimaginable scale. But if we save the Pacific, we also save ourselves.
Antonio Guterres. The Paralympics opening ceremony begins today in Paris, just weeks after hosting the Summer Olympics. More than 4,000 athletes with physical, visual, and intellectual impairments will compete in 22 sports over the next 11 days. I'm Christina Onnested, reporting for Pacifica Radio.